Hello and welcome to lesson 2 of week 7. In this lesson, we are going to look at modules in Python. My name is Mildred. Now, Python comes with some pre-installed modules and there are several of them, but we're going to look at a few so that you get an idea of how you use modules in general, and then you research further to see what exists and use them as you need them. If you want to see the list of available modules, you can just type help and then modules, and you run. It will give you the list of available modules. It's going to generate a whole list of them, so you can look at them to see all the modules that exist in Python, and then you can start reading about them one after the other. Especially when you are building a software, there are domain specific modules where you know that if you want to do something about a mathematical function, you see a module for math. You want to look at date time or dates, deal with dates, you see module for date time and things like that. So you can get a list by typing help modules like this. Now, why modules are important that you use built-in modules when they are available is that some of them are already optimized for performance, and because they are built-in, so you know they'll perform better, and they are more reliable because they have been tested over and over again by a strong community of the developers. When you build your softwares, you will likely build APIs and you have endpoints. When you want to request data from another system, you want your system to communicate with other systems, you want to use an API. And if you're using the REST API, majority of the time data is exchanged in JSON, JSON, and this is the JavaScript object notation. This is the exchange format for regardless of the language you are using. But each language has a module or a function that you can use to pass JSON file to whatever data type is closely related in that language. In Python, JSON looks very similar to dictionaries. We're going to create a JSON file and we're going to try to look at JSON in details. Now, when you want to create a JSON file, you need to ensure that the values are strings, numbers, objects, array, boolean, and null also. Let's create a JSON file. I'll create a new file here, and the file extension is .json. So let's say we have this file student.json. In this file, we want to just assume that we are collecting this information from another system. We requested data from an API, right? And so we'll do student. So the keys, when we write this in, the key should be quoted, right? So the key now is student, and the value will be a list of students. And in this list is going to be a dictionary of the student's ID, first name, last name. So let's just do this. When you receive data from an API, sometimes it's more complex. You have embedded data types, nested things, and you have to figure out how to get what you need when you do your data exploration. So let's say this is student. Now every string in JSON must be quoted with double quotes. So we've created this JSON file. We start with a pair of curly brace, and within that curly brace we have key value. You can have other things like employees or something else here, another key and the values for it. So you're going to get deeper layers of key value pairs when you get a response from an API call. So this is an example of a JSON file. We'll stop here to not make it complicated. And in Python, we have a module called JSON. So we import JSON. This is something that you need to know because you will use it. Now, let's say we want to read this file, the students.json. We want to get this information from the JSON file. We want to read this file and we want to explore and see the keys and the values or things like that. You can create a function that every time you have a JSON file, you pass the file trace. Let's do that. Let's say dev get student list, and then you want this to select the file path. So you want to pass in the file path when you define this. Let's do this properly and we'll try. So I'm trying to use all of what we have learned so far to create this. You open this in read mode. Now when you want to read a JSON file in Python, you do json.load, and then we want to return. And now we want to do the exception. So we accept. There are built-in exceptions that we can use. File not found, error is 1, and then we can send this print. No, we can return, or let's just print for now. We can also accept JSON and the JSON error. So we'll say JSON.json decode error, and if you can't decode this, we'll write print and post the file path. All right, so we have this, and let's see how we want to use it now. We want to pass the file now. We're calling the function to pass the file. Now we created a function, this has to be out of it. We created a function that can decode the file. So you can easily do this in your helper file. If you're going to have downloaded JSON files that you want to read, right? And so you want to say if all the file path exists, you want to do the whole exception, try except block, just so that you can make sure that the file is a valid JSON file and the file is found. So let's say the file path is equal to, we have the path in the same directory, and the path is student.json. That's the name of the file. So we have this, and we want to get the student list now. So we can say student list as the name of the variable is equal to, we call the function get student list, and we'll pass in the file. All right, and then we want to print the type to see the data type or whatever you want to do with it. So now you already have this, by calling this function, you already have the file passed to Python dictionary. So let's look at the type and see and make sure it is passed. So these are the things you do during data exploration to see what it is like when you're building your software. All right, so let's run this and we'll see that it's of type dict. Now that we know it's a dictionary, what do we want to do with it? Let's say we want to print out all of the keys that it has. So we can say for key value student list. Now we know that we did the dictionary methods when we look at sequence types, and we'll use the items method, right, so that we can get the key value pairs. Then we want to print out key and then value. And when I run this, we'll see the key, student, and all of the values there. So you can now look at it now and explore. So this in summary is the JSON module. There's a lot you have to do with JSON, especially when you want to import data from a JSON file or from an API, and when you want to export data out, how you can now change this back to JSON, or you have your data from a database and another system makes an API call to you. How do you transport your data also? So you can read more about the JSON module. In the advanced course, we'll go into detail about API creations like that. We have another module, the OS module, and this one just has methods that we use to interact with the operating system, like when we want to create and manage files and directories. And one common use of this OS, we import OS, is when you build your software, right, you have your environment variables, you have sensitive information you want to store in an environment file. And you can have an environment file for your local environment, you can have for the test environment, you can also have for your production environment. And these files reside on the system. You don't transport these files out. The OS module comes in handy there when you want to start reading what environment it is in and things like that. So let's look at how we can use it. There are different methods in the OS. You need to read about the OS module to see the method they have. If I want to get current working directory, I can say print os.get current working directory like this, and this will just print out what my current working directory is. See, we can also get like the directory name of the current file. Instead of doing get current working directory, we can say os.path.dir name, and then we use this file like this. So you need to read about this to know what exists. So it gives me the path to just the current path where I'm working. Alright, to print the directory of the current file. If you want to print out the name of the current file, just the name, you can now use base name here. And this will print modules.py, which is the base name. There are many methods, you need to look at it. So if you want to print like the parts of the environment, so let's do that, because that is one thing you will use. So say os.environ, I think that, and then I think you put the path. So this will just print out the path environment variable for this. And so we see the path environment variable where this is running from. So look at the OS module and see all the methods available and when you can use it. We also have the sys module that provides access to variables and functions, and it interacts closely with the interpreter and the runtime environment also. And this is more useful when you have a Python script, like you have a script and you want to run that script and you want it to have an interactive command line interaction during when you run the script. So this just relates closely with that. You can read about the sys module and see all of the methods that it exposes to. Then we have the math module, like we said earlier, that apart from having functions or mathematical functions, we have this module that exposes us to different properties that we can use to perform complex mathematical calculations. Like it will say we want to have the area of a circle. We know that it's pi times radius square, and we know the value of pi. And let's say you don't know the value of pi, you can just say math.pi. So let's say let's create a function. We'll say def calculate circle area, and this will pass in the radius. So when you do this, you want the radius passed in, and then we want to say return math.pi. So we know it's pi times radius square, right? Times radius raised to the power of 2. So now you see how it makes it easy. The math module, we know pi. We don't have to get the value of pi to know this. And when we want to run, we want to print the area of a circle whose radius is, we want the radius to be 10. So we'll print calculate area circle, and we'll supply the radius of 10, and then it will print out the area of the circle 314. If we change this math.pi and use the value of pi 3.14, we'll see our answer will still be similar, but it's going to be rounded like that because we rounded already when we did this. So you can see 314.0. Alright, so you can use several functions. Like you want to get the square root of something, we can say print, let's not use a function, let's say math.square root. So say math.square root is written like this, and we want to get maybe the square root of 8. So we want to get the square root of 8 to get this. And let's say we want to get the square root of 64, then we'll get 8, right? So there are different methods and properties in these modules that you can use. Another one you will use most commonly when you build software, you want to get unique identifiers or you want to do probability, is the random module. The random module exposes you to different methods also that you can use to do like random things. Let's say for instance, I want to pick a random number between 1 and 20. Right, so I can say like num is equal to random dot randint, and I'll put 1 and 10, 1 and 20, right? Then I'll print num. Now when I clear here and I run, I'll see it picks 13 the first time. It randomly picks another number 5 randomly. Every time it randomly picks something. If you want it to maybe make a choice from a list, let's say we have favorite brands of clothes. Let's say I have, or brands of shoes. Let's say I have Nike. I have, let's use these brands, and I want to pick a random brand. So I'll now say random dot choice and num, like that. So it randomly selects a brand for me, and so I have this the first time, I have another the second time. It's pick the same thing 3 times on the random choice. So these are some of the things you can use for probability. There are several modules that will come in useful depending on what you are building. We have the re module for regular expression like this. We have the pathlib module. I think we saw some last week. We have the pathlib module that we can also use. We have the datetime module that we use for datetime. We have the hashlib, and we also have the login module. I think we saw that when we want to log the login module. We have that. Then one you want to learn is the collection module also. That has exposed you to different functions, different methods, and you want to research more. If we have more time after we delve into object-oriented programming next week, we're going to look at some of these important modules as your last lesson for the course. So this is where we end this lesson. Thank you and see you.